Recording is live. So if you can see Catherine's screen, so whenever you set up a virtual machine, once you're done, that controller IDE in most cases will contain the ISO image you used to do the installation. So at times it always remains there, and if it's there, basically means the next time you try to boot that machine, most of the time it's going to boot from the ISO file, the Ubuntu 22, which will take you through that whole installation cycle. So whenever you are done with your setup, you always want to come to storage and remove it. So that's one thing to know. The second thing to know is that you can't make any of those changes if your machine is not shut down. If it's in saved state, you can't make any change. So Catherine, what we are going to do is you're going to click on cancel. So just please go ahead and click on cancel. Okay, then remove the saved state. So you want to right click on the Ubuntu server. So just right click on it. Let's see what we get. Let me try do that also on my end. Yes. So I'm sure there's something that probably has popped up. Once you right click, the next thing you want to do is you want to click on discard saved state. So let me see. Discard. So then that virtual machine should be powered off now. It should move from saved to something like powered off. I'll just repeat that same process. I see it's still in saved state. There we go. So now it's powered off. So we can go back to storage. Then click on the Ubuntu server. Then at the bottom center there, yes, you want to click on remove selected. Remove. Okay. Now what you are seeing down Ubuntu server VDI is actually the hard disk. So go ahead and now click OK. Then now if we click just before you click on start, click on settings. So let's just ensure that the networking aspect is okay. So network, it's in NAT, which might make it hard for you to SSH. So click on the drop down box. I don't think it's sharing anything. So Catherine, I will suggest you share your screen, the whole window, instead of sharing what? Instead of only sharing the VirtualBox window, so that we can see those other options, and everyone in this call probably might be able to figure out something that they might have missed. Yeah, apologies for that. I also typically do not like sharing my whole screen because at times might be researching into some interesting confidential information. So as Catherine reshares their screen, I hope there's no one else who is having virtual machine issues. If you're having such issues, please tujulishe mapema. Thank you. Settings, network. Okay, click under attached to. Okay, so what you want to do is we want to switch that to so bridged adapter means your virtual machine and your host will be on the same network. which I typically don't like. I usually prefer host only adapter, which means my virtual machine and my host are on their own network. So go for host only adapter. A good thing here is we don't require any internet access. Then okay. So just click on OK again. I don't know if it's my net, but that window should, once you click on OK, that window should disappear. Yes. Then now we can click on start. Let me know if your screen is freezing or anything of that sort. If your host is freezing or being slow. Though I still see the Ubuntu server is still powered off. I don't know if it's my network that is taking a while to or maybe it's booting up.
It's booting up.
Okay, okay. So fingers crossed that it boots up successfully without the previous issues you're having. Okay, so as it's booting up, at times the machine will crash at this specific stage, and you'll see something like a kernel panic or some weird errors. If you ever run into that, there are two ways you can try to fix it without really knowing what is happening. One, you can increase the RAM by an additional GB. 2 GB most cases should be okay. If you increase the RAM and you still run into that same issue, then increase the number of CPU cores on that virtual machine. I see we are okay. I've seen welcome to Ubuntu 2022, so it should be okay. So Catherine, you can just click on that black screen there, press enter, and you should be able to authenticate. It's okay, still booting. Catherine, your machine looks fancy. I don't recall seeing all of this. So something to quickly note is your IP. 192.168. Wait, why is it 56.0? Huh. we'll pick that up once you're in. Awesome. So Catherine, you can log in. So as Catherine does that, one interesting thing I prefer doing on my machine is that to give them names that cannot be attributed to me. So I'll call my virtual VMs, actually I think I usually call them Ubuntu server, or user VM, user machine, so that if ever someone was doing any investigation on my end, they'll be like, this isn't Lawrence VM. It's part of what people typically call operational security. So just ensuring that whichever devices you have out there cannot easily be tied back to you if you're working on something that you don't need tied back to you. Catherine, you can just press enter or just type. It should take care of the text being shown on your screen.
Hi, Lawrence.
Hi. Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I can hear you.
Should I enter my password, or what am I supposed to key in?
So at this stage, you enter your username first. Then press enter. Then she'll prompt you for password. Now enter your password. So just give it a few minutes. Actually, it should be a few seconds. If you enter the right password, then she'll authenticate you in. Okay, I have a feeling you are in. So once you are in, the first page will easily show you a few things. The most important thing it will show you is your IP. So your IP is 192.168.56.101. If you miss that, you can type IP space ADDR. That will also show you your IP. So just let's type that, IP ADDR, so IP address, then enter. Then you will be able to get your IP address. So a few things to pick here. Number one, the LO is your loopback IP. It's called localhost. That will always be available on your machine. Number two, ENP0S3. That is your networking interface. That is that networking interface will give you the IP that is attached to your bridged host or NAT. So you are always interested in you're always interested in ENP0S3, the second or third interface. Depending with how many interfaces you have, you might have loopback, ENP0S3, ENP, so on and so forth. Second thing to note is that depending on the version of Ubuntu or Debian, they all don't call those interfaces ENP. So other system will call them ETH for Ethernet. So more or less be aware of that. But the commands are typically the same, IP, ADR. So the commands are typically similar. Now some systems will use different commands. Very same, very similar, but not same. But I think right now with the new people say standardization, I call it a nuisance, because 5 years ago this is not how we used to get IPs. So but with the new standardization, I think almost all systems use IP ADDR, and you'll be able to get the IP interface. One key takeaway from this is that for you to be familiar with all those commands, it means it requires you to play with different Linux operating distribution. So today, play with Ubuntu. Play with it, have it in your VM for 2-3 weeks. The fourth week or the third week, install Debian. Play around with it, figure out the basics. After some time, go to a different operating systems so that you have a good idea. So back to Catherine. We know our IP. You can now minimize this Ubuntu screen and open your SSH client. So you can start off with let's start off with the command line. So minimize this, then open CMD. So once you click on search, just want to type in the search bar command line, or actually CMD.
Can I use systems like PuTTY?
Yeah, you can also use PuTTY. But it's also good to know that you can achieve the exact same thing with CMD, because at times PuTTY will not be in the system you are working with, because in most cases you need to download PuTTY. So if PuTTY is not there, always know that you can use command line, CMD, or you can use PowerShell. So the client I'm using is called Bitvice. I used to be a fan of PuTTY, but Bitvice is has better features. So I'll type the IP address. So if you type IP, it tells you the other options you can use. So IP ADR, I see the interface. As you can see on my end, I have 3 interfaces. One, which is my loopback, then my second one, and my fourth one. So the other thing to pick here is you'll be given your IP in INET, in IPv4 format. So these are all my IPv4. And
Lawrence, are you meant to be sharing your screen? Because you can't see anything, we're just hearing what you say.
thank you, Bentley. Yes, I was meant to be sharing my screen. Is it not visible?
No, unless it's on my end, but I still can't see anything.
it should be visible now.
Yeah, yeah, it is visible.
So apologies for that. So where were we? So I'll type IP ADR. I can see my IP. So inet gives you my IP version 4. inet 6 IP version 6 IP. So same thing here. There's this 23 here. It's a whole concept on subnetting, which unfortunately we are not covering in these tracks, but I'll encourage you to just spend some time trying to figure out subnetting. If you're going to be an instant responder, it won't make your life harder, but if you know subnetting, it makes you stand out. The other thing I'd mentioned was on this server I have 2 interfaces. Let me see. I have 2 interfaces. 3 interfaces. So interface 1, 2, and 4. So this interface will basically depend on what you are working on. So this is a server that is publicly hosted. So if you're having issues with your VM, I'm going to share this IP so you can connect to it. I'll need to share with you credentials. So I know Lorette said was having issues. So I'm trying to figure out how to securely share credentials with her. So give me a minute to figure that out. Okay. Apparently I can't share credentials on chat for some reason. So I'm going to share them. How can I share them? Let me share them using Slack. So give me a minute to figure this Slack thing out again. Yes, I have figured it out. So Lorette, I'm sending you the username and password. So I've shared them via Slack. I'm hoping you'll be able to access. So how will you go about accessing? So I'm going to use a CMD for this. So it will be basically SSH. I prefer using SwitchV. SwitchV gives me debug information. It tells me what is happening in the background. So SwitchV. Then the username is user1. Then the IP 78.141.247.61. Then enter. Yes, it will ask you for credentials. Let's see if I share the right credentials. So I've pasted my credentials and I'm in. Awesome. So Lorette, you should be okay. Then here I'm just going to type bash so that I get a shell that is user friendly. So Lorette, that should sort you out. Then let's recall that during the previous session we had a file that we were working with, a zipped file. So what you want to do is ensure that zipped file is in this server. So I'll still go ahead and show how that can be done. That is if I can locate where I placed my zip file. Remember the zip file that had logs on it. I believe I also shared it on Teams. But not to worry, not to worry. Ah, yes, I found them. So I'll close that, share this. That's how people leak passwords. Bad operational security, and this call is being recorded. The good thing is that password is temporary and can always be changed. So what I want to do is here my log file. This one specifically here. What I want to do is to see whether I can increase the font size just to make this slightly. There we go. So the command last time we were using was scp. Okay, so there is scp. So scp switch v. So scp is similar to ssh, more or less similar contact. So scp, the file you want to copy, then your username, then the IP, the IP of the server. So for Catherine, this will be the 192.168 IP, 141.247.61. Then you want to do full colon and give it the path, location where you want those files to be saved. So I had not picked my location, so let's quickly go pick the location. Remember, location can be, if you want to know your location, just type pwd. Interesting. So pwd, this might bring a challenge to Catherine, sorry, not to Catherine, to Lorette. So let me fix that. As I fix that, if you're unsure of the location, all Linux folders always contain a folder called tmp. All Linux systems. Now some systems, let me rephrase, all Linux systems contain the folder called tmp, and all users are allowed to write write and read in that folder by default. Now when you're hardening systems, certain systems harden the tmp folder and limit writing, reading by any user. In our case, this has not been done. So what you're going to do is we are going to copy everything to tmp folder. So if I do that and press enter the password, it's copied. Then let's go back to our SSH server, ls switch lh tmp, and we should be able to see that folder. So here it is. Now I'm rushing through this because this is something we covered during the previous week. So if there's anyone who is having challenges, or who needs me to maybe spend a bit of time just doing a refresher, please let me know so that you're not being left behind. Continue recording. So in that folder, go on the address bar and just type cmd. So that should be Apple to Jew. So where the path is, sorry, you see where your mouse, oh, it's my mouse, not yours, where we have a cybersecurity 2022, that whole path. Yes, so click there, just click on it, inside it. Yeah, let me see how to better explain that. Click on the empty space just after that last path, still on the address bar. Yes, just exactly. Now once you have clicked there, highlight everything. Now type cmd. So just type cmd. So the trick that will do is it will open cmd and press enter in that path. Then just press enter. So it should open a new window, a new cmd window, once you press enter. Correct. Now from there, now we can do now the SAP command. So you'll type scp. So basically space, so space, then switch v or hyphen v, then kindly maximize your window so that it's easy for the few blind guys in the class to follow along. Then space, then let's give the name of the file. So the name is KamiLimu, so just type ka, then press tab. Windows should autocomplete the full good. Then space, then the username of your machine, that virtual machine, then @ the symbol @, then give it the IP of that particular of your virtual machine. Okay, then full colons, full colons, I think those are square brackets. Yes, then now you need to give it the path where you want this file to be copied. As I mentioned, so how do you do that? You need to ideally know the path. I'm sorry, it has to be the full path, and this is the path inside your virtual machine. So you can, I think you have another tab open with that you'd already SSH'd into the virtual machine. So you can still go to that window and just type maybe pwd to figure out where you are. Yeah, so you can actually copy it in a /home ket vm. Perfect. So the beauty of accessing your virtual machines remotely is it becomes easier for you to copy paste text. So yes, can copy that and just paste it there. Good. Then just press enter. So it will ask you to enter password, then you'll just enter your password, and more or less you should be done. So as that is happening, whenever you are connecting, watch out for all this information that you are seeing on the screen, because some of this information will tell you when the machine can't establish connection. It will tell you when there's it gives you information about that connectivity or that particular connection, which will help you with troubleshooting. So you see we have exit status 0, which means everything was successful. We can see that when the transfer started, so transferred, sent XYZ amount, blah blah blah. So now if you go on your other terminal where you have actually SSH'd in, you can actually close this. Now if you type ls, we should be able to see that particular file, that folder, and there we go. So that is basically how you can easily do transfer from your host to your virtual machine. So the next step is for us to unzip those files. You can see they're in a Linux zipped format, tar.gz. To do that, and to also allow us to go on a break, I would like someone else from the group Google or do whatever you need to do to figure out, when you resume, which command will Catherine type on her machine to unzip this particular zipped folder. And with that, I would like us to go on a 10 minutes break. When we resume, I'm hoping someone will be able to share with us that particular command. I give it to Catherine, and Catherine will be able to unzip the file. Once she has done that, then I will be able to resume. So thank you so much, guys, and I see you in 10 minutes time. Tar is the right command, but tar on its own it's incomplete, so you need a few additional magics. X is one of those options, so a few more options. On the right track. So yes, a few more options. Felix amesema kuje na ubaya. So Felix, what does the Z, X, and V and F stand for? So maybe you can give the Z, then we can get someone else giving the other options, the other letters you're seeing there.
Oh, okay. The V. The V stands for producing a verbose output. That is just to say display progress and external file list on the screen.
Exactly. Or debug. V gives you debug, or as Felix has correctly put it, verbose information. Thank you. Let's get someone else giving us the Z or the Z. So let's switch to the ladies in the house. Who do we have today? So we have I think I've had some. So we have Patience, Sidonia, Stacy, and Bentley. So let's get one from you ladies explaining the other one of those remaining options. So either the X, the Z, or the F.
Z instructs the compressing of the file.
Decompressing the file.
Yeah.
Correct. Though there's something that you are missing there. Let me see. If Z is for decompressing, what does X do? Yes, Z is for decompressing, but it's for a very specific decompression. So anyone willing to build on top what Sidonia has mentioned? Still on the lady, so Stacy, Bethley Patience will still come back to you. Yes. Bruce has correctly put it. So the Z is for specifically gzip. If you don't have gzip, then you don't need to use the Z. And then lastly, gentlemen, to share what the X is for. Bethley?
Sorry. Yes.
Sorry, I see you're on mute. I'm assuming you have something to share.
No, sorry. But let me just ask this now that I'm even on mute. We are talking about the Z1, and Bruce is mentioning about just gzip.
Yes.
Is it like the same as gunzip and ungzip?
Correct.
As the resource I'm looking at, it has the gzip, then it has gunzip, then it has ungzip. Is it all the same thing?
Yes, all the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So the gentleman in the room, the X letters for what? So by gentleman, let's pick. So had something from Bruce, from Macharia. So between Boaz, I'm not sure if I've heard anything from Derek. So Boaz, Derek, Tony, tufanye ile kitu. And just a reminder, guys, nothing is stopping you from googling what those commands stand for. So Catherine, as they do that, I hope you have gotten those commands, so you can go ahead, share your screen and zip those files, then I can resume. Bethley, please proceed.
Yes, I do have a question. When I was Googling this, coming across the different ways of unzipping, there's either the tar file, the tar.gz, or now the gzip one.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I thought, because it ends with a gz, that means we are extracting a gunzip file. So I went ahead and used the gunzip KamiLimu, is it? Yes, KamiLimu cyberseclogs.tar, then I included the brackets with one.
Yeah.
But then the first time I got a syntax error.
Okay.
Then I went back to Google. Not even Google. I did use ChatGPT, if I'm being frank. And let me see what it gave. It talked about the errors, like when you're encountering, is it the comma or something? Based on the command, it looks like you're trying to use, the parentheses, yes, the spaces in the file name, like it was causing issues. And it recommended that one, either you rename the file, or option two, you escape the special characters. So I went with that again, still using gunzip, the command, but then now escaping those special characters with, is it a /?
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Yes, which eventually it did manage, but now I didn't have the .gzip part. It was now like the KamiLimu cyberseclogs.tar and into brackets one. Correct. Then now I use the tar -xvf, that flag.
Yes.
Then KamiLimu and everything. Then it did what? How do you say? It unzipped everything. Now, like I can see everything inside the file. Perfect. explain that, and I'm like thinking the commands that are being given on the chat are like the ones that do it automatically. Like once you press it, it does everything. You don't have to go through the long process that I've gone through.
Yes. So your question is how we explain that, right?
Yeah, how do you explain that?
So Catherine, just allow me to, I'll take over. So first of all, Bethany, amazing, like excellent work, working with one commander, troubleshooting your errors to up to that point you have been able to fix and unzip everything. Very, very impressive. So let me go to my folder. Okay, there I am. So when you use gunzip on its own, it will only take care of unzipping everything up to the .tar, the .tar, how do I call it, section. So it basically removes the gunzip aspect of the encryption, of the not encryption, of the compression. Let us see for reference how that appears when we look at our logs. Now recall that in our logs we had logs that only have gzip. So for example, syslog. Anything else, yeah, only syslog here. So if I was to copy syslog, so verilog syslog dot 2.gz, copy it in the temp folder, then go to the temp folder, ls, there it is. Actually both of them are there. So syslog 2.gz only has gunzip, so I can say, is it usually unzip or what? No, I think it should actually be gunzip. So I can say gunzip syslog, and once I do that and now ILS, I should be able to see my syslog2 folder. So same thing, if I do gunzip only for KamiLimu, I should be able to see KamiLimu _ cybersecurity logs.tar. Now when you do tar switch xvzf, then KamiLimu, so it won't allow me to get all of that. Let me see if I force it. What is it saying? Not in gunzip format. Yes, it's not in gunzip format, so which means I need to remove the z, and now I should be able to get everything. So tar with the right option can do what gunzip does for you. So it basically means you are running very limited commands. If you don't give it the right options, then you have to do everything a step at a time. That's actually the main difference. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does answer my question.
Okay.
And I'm just like realizing that even with the commands you're using, or rather your file, like the file you're unzipping, it's not similar to the one that probably was unzipping. Because I saw yours was like KamiLimu cyberseclogs.tar.gunzip or .gz.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think mine, the one when I copied it to my VM, I have like KamiLimu _ cyberseclogs.tar, then I have a space into brackets 1, then .gz, then yes.
So the reason. Sorry, please continue.
No, yeah, that's what I was saying. The first time I used the the gunzip command. Is it a command?
Yeah,
yes, that one.
Command.
Yes, it gave me the syntax error of unexpected token of the bracket. Like yes, of the bracket.
Yes. So that one happens if you happen to copy a file in a destination that already has that file. Most systems will just add that bracket to ensure that you're not overwriting an existing file.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So with that said, what can we do? We can go back to our KamiLimu folder. So tar.zxvf, then KamiLimu. So something to be very careful of. When you're using tar, ZXVF can take any format, but the F has to always be the last option you're giving. F points to the file that you want to unzip. The X here tells tar that we are extracting. Remember, you can either do what? You can either compress a file or you can decompress a file. So the X tells tar that in this particular case I'm extracting a file. If I was creating a file, I believe I'll be using something like C instead of X. If I do that, everything I have, let me see, cannot, permission denied, okay. So let's see why I'm getting permission denied. Probably because I had logs already existing. So I can go to logs. Let me see if there's an issue with Apache. Okay. Might have an issue with Apache because of permissions. So what can I do here? I can go back, look at this folder. Okay, and I will remove my log file, which is weird. Why won't it let me remove? Using sudo, then I will use the sudo command to unzip everything, and now I have no errors. A sudo is similar to running a command as an administrator in Windows. So at times certain things in Linux only admins can do, based on access control on the system, and also based on ownership of that particular file. So now if I do an ls again, I see my log folder. I can go to logs, ls, and I'll be able to see my content. So for the remaining few seconds, you're going to work with the auth.log. Now before we do that, there's something I've been meaning to share for quite some time. Most of us in this call are keen. You will have figured out that I didn't do any introduction to cybersecurity. So you might be in this call and you're wondering, okay, been in this session for some time now, but what is cybersecurity? So let's twist a few things and actually talk over what is cybersecurity. So why am I introducing it at this particular moment? One, because I'm almost switching off, and two, we have spent the last period of time doing a very solid job building our fundamentals, and now it's a ripe moment to figure out, as far as cybersecurity is concerned, why are we doing that? How is it relevant to cybersecurity? So let's get Boaz explaining to us in his own words his understanding of cybersecurity. Then after Boaz, we'll go to Patience. So Patience will also explain her understanding of cybersecurity. Then we'll get another definition from Derek. Then lastly, we will actually not Derek. Let's go with Tony. So we'll get definition from Tony and wrap it up from a definition of what cybersecurity is from Stacy. So we are starting off with Patience. We are starting off with Boaz, then Patience, then Tony, then Stacy. So faster. In your own words, what basically do you understand by cybersecurity?
Okay, in my own words, like cybersecurity, like basically is like defending the computer devices from attacks, malicious attacks. Basically,
Okay.
that's what it means.
Thank you, Boaz. Patience. Patience, if you are not in a position to talk, just let us know in the chat so that we can move on to the next person.
Hello.
Yes, boss.
Oh, have you heard me?
Yes. Thank you. We did hear you. I think I was on mute. Yes. Thank you. Correct. So I was basically talking to myself, requesting Patience to go ahead with a definition. If she's not in a position to talk, she also lets us. She basically updates us on the chat that she's not able to talk.
Hi.
Hi, Patience.
So cybersecurity is protecting your data, your network or your device from damage, unauthorized access or attacks.
Awesome. Perfect. You guys are smart. Tony?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. To me, cybersecurity is more or less along the lines that Boaz and Patience have described. For me, it's really not about building, what the software developers do, but it's even more interesting. It's about learning these platforms, learning what the intricacies of OS functionalities that you can use then to defend network devices, computer devices. So yeah, learning the intricacies, the commands and all of that.
Okay, interesting twist to it. Still correct. Thank you, Tony. Then lastly, Stacy.
For me, cybersecurity is protecting your systems, processes, computers, and even credentials from any malicious attack or from access from someone who is not supposed to access them.
Perfect. Everyone is right. Now, let's introduce a twist into this. We know what cybersecurity is. What is information security? So information security, let's start off with Derek. Then from Derek, we'll go to Lorette. Then from Lorette, we'll go to who? Okay. From Lorette, we'll go to Ted. Hi, Ted. Then lastly, this will be wrapped up by Vivian. So the question is, what is information security? So we have just defined what cybersecurity is, or the class has just defined what cybersecurity is, but what is now information security? So Derek, Laurette, Ted, then Vivian. Derek? Derek seems to be MIA. Laurette, are you able to talk?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Information security are the tools and processes that organizations use to protect information. I am seeing it's also called InfoSec.
Okay. Correct. Yeah, that will work. Thank you. So from Laurette, we are meant to go to a gentleman. I believe that gentleman was Ted.
Yeah. Good evening, Lawrence.
Hey, Ted.
I'm still battling these tickets here. What I can say about InfoSec is, I think the definition I'd use here is the CIA triad. So I'd talk about confidentiality, ensuring that information as well as systems are only accessed by the people who need to access it. Integrity, ensuring that data is not altered, and if it's altered, that is recorded and it's only altered by people who need to. And availability, making sure that the information is available within the required timeframes. That will be my definition of information security.
Perfect. Then we wrap it up from Vivian.
I think Ted is those speakers no one usually ever wants to talk after. Because the answer was very comprehensive. Mine will feel like I've watered it down.
No.
From what I'm gathering is information security. Okay. Information security, what it does is it protects sensitive information from people who are not supposed to access it. You can't edit, you can't inspect, you can't record, you can't do anything to that information because of information security. It basically provides an avenue to protect that sensitive information from any inspection, modification, recording, destruction, such and such.
Okay. Yeah. Sawa. So let me share this training I did some time back. Introduction to cybersecurity. Let's try make. First of all, let me just ensure my screen is still visible. Yes, it's still visible. View this in a full screen mode. Cybersecurity, practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks, and data from malicious attacks and actors. Information security, practice of defending information from malicious attack and actors. From malicious attack and actors. Information can be in computers or filing cabinets. subtle difference. We have all heard of what? Right now, if you have an ATM from, I think, almost the leading banks in Kenya, they have what we call NFC. Think, what does NFC stand for? Anyone who remembers, knows near field something? A near field communication. Safaricom at one point were also issuing NFC bands. Now, if your ATM has NFC, it basically means that if you go in certain outlets, you don't need to put your ATM inside the machine. You basically tap it, and that transaction is completed. Now, when that ATM card is in your wallet or handbag or clutch, it contains information. If someone has the right tooling, they can basically pass near you and they'll be able to debit your card. Your ATM has information. Us securing that information might be classified under information security and not cyber security. An even better example, if you go in most government offices, they still have file cabinets that has a lot of confidential information. The fact that those filing cabinets are put under lock and key is information security, because they're securing that information. Now, your computer, my computer, Zoom, all of these, we are transmitting, sharing information. All of these has to be secured. That is cyber security and information security. Putting things in a cabinet, not cyber security, it is information security. So, information security is broad. It encompasses cyber security. Well, cyber security is very limited and confined to the cyber domain. So that is the subtle difference. Now, when most people talk of InfoSec, they actually mean cyber security and not information security in its purest definition. So just something you need to be aware of. Though at the moment people use them interchangeably, though you might run into me and I expect you at least know that particular definition. Now, why is that important? The controls you put for information security and cyber security typically vary. So if you're going to secure a house that contains contains important information, you'll say you're going to put a padlock there, you're going to put a guard, you're going to put a dog, you're going to put, they're called man traps. All of those controls are information security controls. Then you can say, okay, we can also put CCTV, we can also put biometrics and all that. Cyber security controls start now coming in. So good to know. That subtle difference will help you at least know the right controls to recommend. Now, all of them, both information security, they are all geared towards satisfying what we call the CIA triad, which are the building blocks of cybersecurity. So everything you do in cybersecurity, even information security, is meant to satisfy these three things: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. By confidentiality, we mean that information should only be accessible by people who need to have that access. For example, this call, it's only meant to be accessible by guys who are in the cybersecurity cohort. So how do we ensure that is done? This track, we have our own Zoom link. We have our own Google Meet link. We have our own private channel All of those are meant to guarantee confidentiality. How does Google prevent and ensure that what you are talking is not being listened or being dropped by another team? We have all those TLS, SSL, encryption. Actually, not even encryption. Oh yeah, actually think encryption, yes. All of those meant to ensure confidentiality. Integrity means the information you are sharing, the information I sent you is the exact same information you receive. So how do you know that the password I sent you is the right password? Or how do you know that the file I sent you is the right file? So how do we go about this? By looking into controls like hashing. So if I send you a file, that file has a mathematical value that never changes. So if I send you this file, I will associate it with a hash, and this is a practice I'll actually also start getting into, so that I send you files, I also send you hashes, which means you download that file, you compare it against the hash. If the hashes match, then you know that file has not been altered. In this call, when you talk of TLS, encryption and all that, there are hashing that happens in between there, so that in the background, in the back end, Google, Facebook, whichever application you're talking with will actually know that this information is coming from XYZ, and it's the information being transmitted, or the information I've received is the actual information that was transmitted. All of that is about integrity. Then lastly, we have availability. Availability, very straightforward, ensuring that that service is available when you need it. So if you go on Google Meet, it should be available when you need it. If you are going to Slack, Slack should be available when you need it. All of those are concerned, or all of those are the building blocks of information security and cyber security. Defending computers, all of that, from malicious attacks and actors. Now, everything we are doing when we talk of cybersecurity roles, what we have been doing, understanding system administration and understanding virtualization, how logging is done, is meant to help us figure out, if I'm going to investigate a confidentiality issue, where do I need to look? If I'm going to investigate an availability issue, where am I going to look? If I'm going to investigate an integrity issue, where am I going to look? All of these things typically have logs to help you investigate them. So if you're talking of confidentiality, which means if Lawrence and Bruce are meant to have only access to this file, how do we know when someone else maybe got access to that file? We'll tell you, okay, look at the logs. When Lawrence accesses file X, the system tells you Lawrence has accessed the file. When Bruce accesses that file, it tells you Bruce has accessed that file. When Beckley accesses that file, it will tell you Beckley accessed that file. So once you know where those logs are stored, then it becomes easier for you to investigate a confidentiality issue. From integrity, how do you know files have changed? When I save this file, it tells me that this file was saved by Lawrence, so on and so forth. Knowing where those logs are, knowing how to read, understand, processes them, enables you to investigate an integrity issue. Same thing to availability. How do you know if Facebook was up, if Facebook was down? How do you know if someone switched off those servers? Different ways. So someone switched off the Facebook server. How will they have done it? One way or another, they needed to have access to the server. If it's a Windows server, we know the event IDs we need to look for. to figure out someone accessed this server. If it's a Linux server, that's where we are. So we now know someone accessed that server. How did they switch it off? So they gain access, they may be disabled a specific service. From Windows Event Viewer, we know that as long as we know the event ID, we can actually know that this person accessed this server. During the time they were in that system, we noticed that a user, or this specific user, disabled this service. You see, now we are investigating an availability issue. Top high level, I know personally it was a challenge to try and understand this CIA triad. How does it fit into all of this? But the more you practice, and I'm hoping this definition have actually helped you figure out how what you are doing eventually ties into these three concepts of the CIA triad. So cybersecurity, it might have different fancy names. Everything, blue team, red team, purple team, everything we are doing, all the tools you're working with, actually meant to help us satisfy confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our servers, our mobile devices, our electronic systems and networks, data and information, regardless where it's stored. So I just wanted us to do that and have that at the back of our head as one of the main reasons we are doing what you are doing. And when you talk of cybersecurity, how it's all tied in. So I'll take a pause and welcome any question. Okay, we seem to be doing okay. So these sessions keep getting interesting. So I'm just going to quickly look at how we are doing with time. So we are meant to stop at 8, so have a few minutes to 8, actually a minute to 8. So I will beg to end there and just take a breath, to take a breather and just cool off. But to wrap it up, majority of what you have done today: one, the virtualization issues we had have been sorted and cleared, which is good. For guys who had issues with internet access, we have sorted out those, but as not internet access, VM issues, we have sorted out those issues. Now this sets ground for us to do what? Dive into a few of the things that you're meant to do actually today, which is basically going through the Linux aspect of things, and what else? Talking a bit about the class project. So we won't be able to talk about the project, but we can easily cover, I can briefly mention what you're going to do in the next session. So in the next session, what you're going to do is we'll do a deep dive on the Apache log files. So we'll do a deep dive on the Apache log files, access log and error log. Do a deep dive on the auth log, and deep dive on syslog. Where are you? Yes, syslog. Now by this deep dive, what I mean is we already know how to view those files, process them. What we'll be doing will be, how do we investigate an incident by looking at those particular log files. So when you get time, what you're going to do is I need you guys to create some time and go through these commands. One, we have already gone through less, more, cut, head, and tail. If you miss any of those sessions, I'll recommend please go through those commands. They're Linux commands. So in the next session, we'll be going through grep, cut, awk, sort, unique, and WC. So the last commands, those are the commands I'll say go through them at least this week, so that when we meet in the next session, we will be able to proceed. Which brings me to the next question in regards to when should we have our next session. So I would have loved for us to have it on Saturday, ideally for 1 hour 30 minutes. Now unfortunately, Friday and Saturday I will be traveling to attend to a funeral, so unfortunately I won't be available. So what I'm requesting is whether we can move that session to, let me see, to next week Wednesday, more or less same time. So we start from 6 and finish by 7:30. So 1 hour 30 minutes, just to help us cover a few things here and there. Actually, yeah, I think 1 hour 30 minutes should be enough for us to cover bits of those commands and also talk more about the class project that I mentioned, which will also give me time between tomorrow and Friday to document. I'm hoping that's okay. Now if it's not okay, I will still request you to sleep over it, and then in the Slack channel I'll see if there's a possibility for us to run a poll, so that we run a poll and majority basically majority will basically carry the day. Vivian, I see you mentioned that we have another event on Wednesday, so let me quickly confirm that Wednesday will be the 22nd. Let me see if we have an event on 22nd. I don't think we have an event on 22nd.
We have one. It's for scholarship writing. It's a scheduled event for KamiLimu.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, okay. It's not on the schedule I have. So perfectly okay. Do you have any event on Thursday?
No.
So okay, let's work on Thursday. I'll share the poll hopefully early tomorrow morning. Then we can vote on it and agree. If Thursday won't work, we choose a different day. So I'm avoiding putting the events on Saturday. If I put them on Saturday, then I would like us to do 1 hour and allow you guys to use the other remaining time to do other activities you might have in mind at your own pace. I hope that's okay with everyone.